you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego. And in today's episode, we will be moving on to our final pillar of total wellness. Pillar number 4, sleep and recovery. Last week, we covered pillar number 3, stress management. And the weeks before, we covered pillar number 1, movement, and pillar number 2, nutrition. So if you haven't listened to those episodes yet, I recommend going back and listening to those first, as this was a presentation that I gave to a company and it had a certain order and flow to it. We're breaking down the topic of total wellness, and we're breaking it down into 4 important pillars. So the goal is to learn how important these big rocks are and how we can leverage them to improve our total wellness. I'll bring up what we covered in that presentation, but we're going to go so much deeper on each topic. Total wellness, it's a large subject, and the 4 really important pillars to total wellness are movement, nutrition, stress management, and our final one, sleep and recovery. So today we're going to touch on some of the struggles that we currently see with the way that our society is sleeping, and for some, not sleeping. Then we will discuss strategies and tips on how to boost our sleep pillar to optimal status. But before we get to the topic of the day, I want to start by thanking the sponsors of this podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Eat the Frog Fitness. Eat the Frog Fitness is the most personalized group fitness experience that you'll ever find. All Frog Squad members are assessed every 8 weeks to see and track progress. The programming is backed by science-based periodization, which means that your sessions are designed to progress your intensity over time, as well as having in programmed recovery weeks. Check out any of the Eat the Frog Fitness locations in Southern California, and if you mention this Livin the Dream podcast, you're going to receive your first 2 training sessions complimentary. Another one of our sponsors is music app Brain.fm. Music app Brain.fm's functional music helps you focus, relax, meditate, and sleep better. It does this by using cutting-edge neuroscience to get the results that you're after. I used Brain.fm for years before I partnered with them. I truly believe in their product. I use it anytime that I'm creating an episode for this podcast, and I also listen to their deep sleep music every single night. My Oura Ring, it tracks my sleep data, and the difference is noticeable. Download the app on your app store and use the discount code CoachDamian_SD, all one word, to try the app for a free month and to get a discount off of your first month if you decide to continue with your subscription. And this week's 5-star review comes from Dan the Man. Dan the Man says, "Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised with this podcast. I thought it was going to be another one of those health professionals telling me to stop being lazy and to start working harder. The way that Coach Damian delivers his information is tangible, and he gives actual actionable things that you can do right now to become healthier. Love it and highly recommend to all my friends and family." Thanks so much, Dan, for your support and kind words. Man, that's awesome. I'm pumped you're finding value and sharing it with other people. Keep it up. For everyone else that's listening, if you could do us a favor, if you haven't already, while you're listening to this episode, if you haven't subscribed to it yet, please take a second to subscribe to this podcast. It's going to allow you to get notifications anytime that we release an episode, but it also shows more people that this podcast is worth a listen. And then you can actually scroll down and leave me a 5-star review if you feel that we've earned it. I read every single review, and I appreciate and love the feedback. Keep them coming. And now on to the topic of the day: sleep. There are few things that you do in this life that occupies a third of your time. I used to be under the assumption that sleep was kind of a waste of time. I used to think that if there was a magic pill that I could take to keep me awake, I would have so much time to do all the other things that I wanted to do. I said things like, "I'll sleep when I'm dead. Sleep is for the weak and unmotivated." I was so wrong. Sleep is not lost time. It's not just a way to rest when you're tired or when you have nothing better to do. There are so many benefits that come from sleeping. Sleep is vital and critical to your success and health. During sleep, your body balances and regulates its important systems, things like respiration, breath, circulation, flow, and immune response is all controlled and enhanced through the process of sleep. Sleep is extremely important to your brain as well. 1/5, 20% of your body's circulatory blood is sent to the brain during sleep. And when you're sleeping, your brain is actually being restructured and cleansed. And this plays a huge role in your memory and how you're able to process information. There's a huge difference between getting sufficient, high quality sleep and then just being unconscious in your bed at night. High quality sleep means that you go through all of the stages of sleep efficiently so that you're waking up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated in a way that your body and brain, they have been properly healed through the night. And what do I mean when I say healed? During sleep, this is the time that your brain is cleaning house. We have these cells in our brain called glymphatic cells. Glymphatic cells. This is a part of the glymphatic system. This is active primarily when we're asleep. It's meant to help clean out all of the metabolic waste. Your brain uses so much energy. 25% of your metabolic energy is used by your brain every day. And to recycle those brain cells that are no longer healthy, they do this with the glymphatic system while we're sleeping. This system is 10 times more active when we're sleeping than when we're awake. Our brains are incredibly active when we're asleep. It's not like we go to sleep and our brain just shuts off, right? If our brains shut off, then we're dead. Think about it kind of like your computer. Your computer can shut down all the way, right? Or it can go into what's called sleep mode. And sleep mode, you can still have programs running in the back. This is so important because we're finding out that a big part of why people start to get cognitive decline, things like Alzheimer's, it's stemming from an inability to get the sleep quality that we need to clean out our brain. And over time, this chronic deprivation of the recovery period needed for the brain to function, this leads to chronic disease symptoms, ADHD, mild cognitive impairment, all the way up to things like Alzheimer's and dementia. So you can see lack of sleep is a huge issue. The CDC reported that insufficient sleep is a, quote, public health epidemic. They reported that 115 million Americans are regularly sleep deprived. 115 million Americans. We know that the outcomes of this are contributing to our issues with diabetes, heart disease, yes, obesity for sure, and all those brain dysfunctions that we just mentioned. This is a problem. We need to have a conversation about this, and we need to make this more well known. The process of sleeping is something that we evolved to do. But these days we have lights on at any and all hours of the night. We have distractions keeping us up when normally we would be going to bed when the sun went down. This is a very, very recent issue. And again, with all of our advancements in technology, this is far outpacing our evolution for our human physiology. We got to look at what this means for our health, especially in our later years. I also want to discuss the recovery process. Your body is usually bouncing back and forth between two different states, an anabolic state of building and repair, and a catabolic state of breakdown and degradation. Anabolic and catabolic. We need both of these states to survive. If you think of your skin cells, you have multiple layers of skin, and they are constantly being sloughed off, and the ones underneath of them are growing back, younger, stronger, more resilient, and new. And if we didn't do that, by the time that we turned 80 years old, we would be in really bad shape. And every single one of the cells in your body are programmed to do this. They have in programmed death cycles when they get too old and dysfunctional. This happens when you exercise, you're breaking down muscle tissue with a positive stress. You're doing weightlifting or resistance training. This is catabolic. And then if you give your body the right amount of time to recover in the right way, your body then repairs, rebuilds, and makes that broken down muscle tissue stronger and more resilient. It's the circle of life, right? Yep. But it's important to know that throughout most of your waking hours, your body's in a catabolic breaking down state. When you're awake, you're most likely catabolic. It's running through the processes of generating energy to help you get through the tasks of your day. It's using up brain energy and energy stores. Well, at least hopefully. And then at night, when you're sleeping, This is the opportunity to balance it out. It's the yin and the yang, right? Nighttime, when you're in your deeper sleep stages, you are at your most anabolic, building anabolic. This is where repair happens. This is where your body recovers from all of your training or your exercising that you're doing. And I can't stress this enough. It is in the recovery where you're getting stronger, better, faster. As hard as you focus your efforts in the gym, you must start to look at how you recover from it just as much. I wish I would have known this stuff 10 years ago when I was just crushing myself into the ground day after day, doing workout after workout, thinking that I was getting stronger and stronger. Except for I was overtraining. I wasn't giving myself time to recover. I was doing too much. So if you're not getting your good quality sleep, if you're not getting those blocks of time in that deep anabolic stage of sleep, you're slowly breaking down more than you're rebuilding. And this can definitely be a problem over time. A one-off bad night of sleep here or there isn't really a big deal. It's when a person says that they can live off of 4 hours of sleep for months or years. And I've actually seen this person many different times. That's when you'll see the problems start to manifest in their health. There are many mistakes that we make when it comes to sleep. Let's go through a few of them here before we get to our action plan. First, we have systems in our brain and systems in every single one of our 37 plus trillion cells in our body that have these things called circadian clocks that many of us have heard of before. These clocks control our circadian rhythms. Our whole body is based off of rhythms. And the number one thing that we do to destroy our sleep quality is using technology that has light emitting devices too close to the time where we should be winding down to go to sleep. Many studies have shown that items with screens such as TVs, laptops, cell phones, tablets, you know what it is, all of these devices, they emit this blue light that disrupts our circadian rhythms. It's important to know that all blue light is not bad. When I first heard about blue light emitting devices, I was like, oh, damn, does that mean I have to wear blue light blocking glasses all day, every time I look at a screen? And the answer is no. Blue light is great for us, especially early in the morning, especially from the blue light that is in sunlight. This actually helps set the circadian clock how it should be set, telling us that it's morning, telling us that the sun is coming up. But at night, this is when we should not be getting this kind of light. Before we were able to harness the power of electricity, we didn't have to worry about this. The sun made the decision for us. The light went up. Okay, it's time to get up. The light went down. All right, there's nothing to do. We can't do anything. It's bedtime. But don't be afraid of blue light. Just understand what it's doing. Utilize it at the right time of day to optimize your goals. Along with this blue light, the content of what we're watching on these devices also has a huge impact. What we're watching. Think about it. If you watch a documentary that gets you all emotionally charged, or if you watch a horror movie that gets you just totally scared, stressed out, or a high-stress thriller, or even crazy things if you watch them on social media like riots or fist fights or whatever the crazy thing that you find on the interwebs these days, the hormones in your body that are released from looking at this kind of stuff, that watching this kind of stuff, that highly emotionally charged content, that's almost as if you're experiencing this stuff yourself. You have these mirror neurons in your brain, and it's almost like you're experiencing what you're watching. You get some adrenaline pumping and some cortisol releasing right before you're supposed to be going to bed, along with the blue light that goes in your eyes. That tells your body that it is daytime. Of course, we're going to be screwed up. And we wonder why when all of a sudden we want to turn off the lights, our body's supposed to figure out that it's automatically bedtime? No, it just doesn't work like that. Just like our body needs time to ramp up for peak high energy performance, it also needs time to ramp down, decelerate, and complete the cycle. And one more note on screens. When you look at a small screen in front of you, your eyes do this things where it constricts and it hyper-focuses on a small area. And over long periods of time, this really challenges the muscles of the eye that dilate and contract and cause issues with your eyesight. So if you're concentrating at a screen for more than 30 minutes at a time, make sure that you take time to look away from that screen Maybe it's just 30 to 60 seconds, but look at something more in the distance. If you have a window, awesome. Look as far as you can see out that window. And the more that you can have side to side panoramic vision over something like an ocean or a big forest or something where you can have a big picture view after being so hyper focused, the further you look, the better. And of course, if you can only look across the room, then just do whatever you can do with what you have. You got to do what you can. Your eyes are going to thank you in your later years. Give your eyes time to dilate, to contract, to look far, to look close. It's going to help, I promise. And one really cool thing that most people already know about is that most devices have a setting that you can change that will turn your screen to more of a red hue, minimizing the blue light once the sun goes down. The iPhone has this setting called night shift, and it's in the display and brightness settings if you go into your phone. Laptops have the same thing. On Macs, it's also called night shift. Smart TVs usually have the same setting as well. This will help, but honestly, try to get all of your screens off if you can, at least an hour before you want to lay down for sleep. And I am someone that struggles with this as well. We use arch screens for yin yoga at night, so we try to turn it all the way dark and just kind of listen instead of watch. But yeah, it's definitely hard nowadays to be able to do this. Just do your best. An hour before is great. 90 minutes is better. 2 hours is better. So just do what you can. Another mistake that a lot of us get wrong is we actually leave lights on when we're going to sleep. When I was little, like in my teens, I used to watch TV to put me to sleep. I would have my movie picked out and I would watch it until I fell asleep. And sometimes I would wake up at like 1 or 2 a.m. and the DV had stopped. Yes, DVD. And you know how when a DVD finishes, it goes to the home screen where you can select what you want to watch again, or you can go to settings, or you can go to special features. And that screen would just play over and over and over again. It's like on a 30-second loop until you select something. Well, I guess that was like my nighttime goodnight lullaby, because I would just have that on for hours and hours until I woke up in the middle of the night and turned it off. What I didn't realize was that this was for sure negatively affecting the quality of my sleep. I guess it didn't really stunt my growth because I still made it to 6'3", but who knows what it did. Maybe I would have been 6'9". Researchers at Cornell University did a really interesting study. What they did was they blacked out a room. They then had these participants go to sleep in this room, but they took a light the size of a quarter and they shined it just behind the back of the knee of the participants in this study. So picture this. Pitch black, everything dark, just a tiny light that they can't see with their eyes just shined on the back of their knee. And guess what? The results of this study, the light was enough to cause disruption to their normal sleep cycle. That's incredible. They couldn't see it with their eyes, but their skin was picking up the light data and transmitting that to their brain. That's freaking rad and mind-blowing at the same time. We tend to think about our skin as just this protective saran wrap layer over all of our stuff, holding all of our organs, bones, muscles in place. But there are receptors in your skin that sense heat, touch, chemicals. It's so much far more complex than the average person really understands. We are actually this compilation of atoms and vibrating cells, and these cells are coming together to work together in this whole encompassing symbiotic way. If you really sit and meditate on it, it's going to blow your mind. But if you want to sleep suboptimally, if you want to directly impact your sleep negatively, then you for sure got to keep your TV on. If you want to sleep smarter, get the TVs off. Most importantly, get the TVs out of your room. Get blackout curtains and then little stickers over any of the LED lights, maybe from like the fire detector or whatever might be going on in your room, in your place. Another mistake that we make when we sleep is that we create a temperature atmosphere that is too warm. For those of you that like to sleep all snug and warm with a sweatshirt and sweatpants and socks and a comforter and a blanket on top of the comforter, while yes, at the time it feels great and cozy, you're actually hurting your sleep gains. You have a few spots on your body that really regulate temperature. The skin on the palms of your hands, the skin on the bottom of your feet, and the skin on your face and your head. This is called glabrous skin. And that's why when you get hot at night, you'll find and you'll take your foot out from underneath the covers, or you'll hold your hands out or your arms out, Or if you go skiing and you're wearing a beanie and you get really hot, you take your beanie off and you instantly start to cool off just by taking the beanie off. Those are the areas that get super warm when you sleep, and those are the areas that need to stay cool. So your body, it's naturally trying to cool itself off all the time, instinctually, but there are things that you can do to help. You can obviously turn the thermostat to a cooler temperature if you're not like my dad and don't care about the electricity bill. They also have products that you can buy that you can put on top of your mattress that keep your side of the bed at the temperature that you set it. You can also open up a window, depending on where you live, and get a fan going. That's going to help with airflow. That can keep the small area of your bedroom cool. And I'll talk a little bit about the temperature that you're looking for and what your products that I use in just a little bit. But just think temperature is super important. High intensity workouts affect your core body temperature. So like HIIT workouts, if you're going to work out at night close to bed, it's better to avoid these types of exercise. Instead, if you're going to work out, maybe do some slow, light resistance type training or mobility work or stretching, of course. Rather than doing HIIT training or a CrossFit workout of the day or some sort of sport, all of that stuff is going to negatively impact your sleep quality that night because of your body temperature. A huge mistake a lot of us make, including myself, is also eating too close to bedtime. For me, I coach the night block all the time, and I get home sometimes around 9 p.m. So after we cook dinner and eat it, it's almost 10 p.m. That's really too late if we're going to be going to bed at 10:30 or 11 at night. Our bodies are still digesting and absorbing the food that we ate while we sleep, if that's the case. Now, I can't change my schedule, so sometimes you have to do what you have to do with what you have. I could eat before I start coaching at like 3:30, but then I feel like I wouldn't be on top of my game for when I coach. Or I could eat fast in between sessions, but I don't think that's really a great option for me either. So I've decided that I have to do the best I can. And if I have the opportunity, I'll eat earlier, but then I'll either eat something light or I'll instead eat a breakfast the next morning that's a little heavier and a light dinner. But I know that my food at night is affecting my sleep. So if you have the opportunity or the choice and you really struggle with sleep, you may want to try to extend that block of time between your last food item and the time you go to sleep, if you have that flexibility in your schedule. And then you can track and see how you feel, see how it impacts you. Every body is different. The only way that you can tell if it will impact you a ton or a tiny bit or not at all is to track and measure and do it for a good period of time consistently. If you can't control when you eat, maybe you can control what you eat. They say that actually carbohydrates help you to sleep a little bit better. Very interesting, right? We were told don't eat before bed and especially not carbohydrates. But for me, I love eating berries as my last food item of the day. I throw in some dried fruit sometimes or a couple squares of dark chocolate. I do 95% cacao, which most people find disgusting, but 75% or more cacao is amazing and has amazing health benefits for you, in moderation, of course. It might be a good idea to avoid eating super high protein foods close to bedtime because this is going to take longer to digest and make the body work harder to break down and absorb. There are so many different variables here. It's overwhelming to try to address them all, but just know that what you eat, when you eat, it definitely has an effect on what's going on later in the day, and especially with your sleep. The last couple of mistakes are pretty common knowledge, and that is alcohol intake close to bed or pretty much any time of day, but especially not great right before you go to sleep, along with your caffeine intake are super important. If you have the option, you want to get your caffeine or your alcohol in earlier than later. I personally try not to do caffeine after 2 p.m., but I also stay up later than most. So if you go to bed earlier than 10:30 p.m., you might want to get your caffeine curfew even earlier than that. And then alcohol, of course, you know that when you drink alcohol, it's going to be like taking a wrecking ball to all of the pillars of total wellness. So just make sure that it's for a good occasion. Lack of sleep is also one of the largest risk factors in obesity. What? Obesity? Lack of sleep and getting fat? How are they connected? There was a study done in 2010 that we've talked about before where they had two groups of people on the exact same calorie deficit diet. The goal was weight loss. One group got a short 5.5 hours of sleep, while the other group got a full 8.5 hours of sleep. By the end of the 14-day study, the group that got 8.5 hours of sleep lost 55% more body fat than the other group. And here's the crazy part. The group with less sleep actually lost important and valuable muscle tissue. This study seems to show that the amount of sleep or the amount of lack of sleep is a strong dictator in which types of tissue in the body are affected. Not just that, it also has a huge effect on your behaviors during our waking hours. This article states that essentially when you lack sleep, it lowers your inhibition levels, it lowers your willpower, and it lowers your motivation. You tend to crave more, you tend to eat more, and more importantly, you lose the ability to recover from your training. So, one of the things that I really wish I would have known and utilized growing up is that your best results come when you focus on your recovery. In the recovery period, it's where you rebuild, it's where you strengthen, it's where you repair, and you progress. Your sleep and your recovery are as important, dare I say, more important than your exercise program or your diet plan. Sleep can help you train better, it can help you make better choices with your diet, and it can help mitigate some of the stresses that life has to offer. So yes, while sleep is just one of these pillars of total wellness, it might be the most important pillar of the 4 that we've discussed, only because that when it's not focused on, it can pretty much tip over the other 3. Now, we could go into all the different stages of sleep and all that crazy in-depth stuff, but we've already done that on a few masterclass episodes on sleep. I'll include those links in the description of this episode. If you do want to go back and listen to those, you'll get a much better idea of all the deep dive stuff when it comes to the physiology behind sleep. But I think our time here is better spent by moving on to how we can change our lifestyle behaviors. And now that we know some of the actions and lifestyle choices that negatively affect our sleep, now let's make this a little more tangible. Here is your action plan for boosting your sleep pillar to optimal status. Here's the secret sauce. Here is your game plan that you can use to elevate your sleep game. When it comes to sleep, what's been the biggest game changer for me and my clients has been creating a ritual that gets your body and brain ready for sleep. Creating a ritual. Those of you that are parents might know this all too well. If you take a look at the things that you're most consistent with in life, the things that you have the most success at, the things that you enjoy the most, look at those things. I would bet that you have some sort of ritual or routine that supports you in it. For me, I prided myself on being one of the most consistent people that I knew when it came to working out, to training. How did I do that? Well, I first had a game plan. It was important to me, so I made a game plan. I planned when in my day I was going to do it. I planned it in like it was an appointment, mandatory. And then I had a routine where I had all my workout gear packed. I had my pre-workout in my shaker bottle, so all I had to do was add water. I had my playlist made that I was going to listen to, or my podcast picked out that I was going to listen to. I had a change of clothes for after. My post-workout shake was in a Ziploc bag. It was all there ready. I had a plan. And then I had a ritual. When I drove to the gym, I parked in the same parking spot in the very back of the parking garage at the mall, so I could do the stairs to help me warm up on my way to the gym. I did my warm up in the gym as well in a certain way, depending on what muscles I was going to be working that day. If I was going to be working chest and tri, I did a certain warm up. If I was going to do legs, I did a certain warm up. I also had my favorite towel that I used. My headphones I wore in a certain way. It was a whole thing. Your brain loves to do things on autopilot. It helps save energy, and your body wants to be as efficient as possible. So when you're constantly trying to decide, should I do this? What should I do here? Is this going to work? Your brain doesn't love that. It's using up energy. It wants to be efficient. Your brain loves to do things on autopilot. So the more that you can associate one thing with another, the more that your brain will wire those neurons together, and it becomes almost harder not to do that thing than to actually do it once you've solidified that pathway. My brain had been through this situation so many times. When I parked in that parking spot, it knew exactly what was coming next. There was no question. I can imagine that I probably started to release some of those fight or flight hormones because I had done this routine so many times and my body knew that a workout was coming. I also didn't use up a bunch of energy deciding what clothes to wear, what playlist to play, when to drink the pre-workout. None of that. I was on autopilot because I made a game plan, because I found consistency with that game plan. I had done this routine so many times, and now it was just a ritual. And once the first domino was pushed, the entire routine was going to follow from start to finish, whether I wanted it to or not, whether I was feeling good or not, or whether I had the energy that day or not. So before I tell you about my nighttime routine that's very similar to my workout routine, let's talk about how to set up your environment to get the most optimal high quality sleep. And I'm going to tell you how to create this sleep sanctuary for best sleep possible. And there's a difference between being in bed for 8 hours and actually getting great quality sleep for 8 hours. And the person that I learned from on this is one of my favorite fitness professionals, Sean Stevenson from the Model Health Show podcast. If you don't listen to the Model Health Show yet, I can guarantee you that it will change your life. Sean wrote the New York Times best-selling book called Sleep Smarter. And if you haven't read it and you struggle with sleep, this is a no-brainer. You have to get this book. It's awesome. He talks about everything that you need to know when it comes to getting the best sleep of your life. So first, you want to make sure your bedroom is completely blacked out. Blackout curtains, even stickers over the little LED lights that may be around. Studies have shown that even the smallest amount of light is registered by your brain, even when your eyes can't see it. For example, if you shine a light on the back of your leg. Brain scans show that it registers in your brain, any kind of light. So get your room as dark as possible. Next, take the TV out of your room. Take the electronics out of your room. Your room should be for two things and two things only. That's sleep and sex, period. Also, a side note, couples who keep the TV in their room have 50% less sex, half as often. So I don't know, that might be something for you to think about. Sex also helps to relieve your stress and it helps with your physical activity. So that's kind of like a 3-for-1 right there. But you want to make it dark. You want no electronics or distractions. You want your brain to associate that room with just those two things. And then also you want it cool. Between 60 and 67 degrees has been shown to be the best temperature, 60 to 67, which may seem a little cool to some of you. And yes, it is pretty cool. They actually have some really cool inventions nowadays that help keep your bedroom and your bed chilled. I use a chili pad. It's a little spendy, but for me, it was well worth it. You can set it to whatever temperature that you want your bed to be, and it also separates the bed into two different sides. So if your partner wants it slightly hotter or slightly cooler, which is kind of cool, and it uses flowing water to cool your side of the bed to the exact temperature that you want. It also brings this kind of white noise to your room, which is nice. I do like white noise. The feeling is when if you've ever felt when you turn your pillow over and it's like the cool side of your pillow, that your whole bed feels like that, which is amazing. So that's the chili pad that I use. But there are tons of different devices and products that do the same thing. So find a way to keep your bedroom and your bed cool. One way that you can get your body to cool down is actually a little counterintuitive. To heat it up shortly before bed. This seems counterintuitive, but a hot bath or a shower or a sauna right before bed will have your body working to cool it down. A little super compensation the other way. Your body will then cool down to even cooler than your baseline, allowing you to slip off into a nice deep sleep. So get hot to cool yourself down. Plus, a hot bath or sauna is so relaxing right before bed as an added benefit. But you do have to make sure that you give yourself time to cool down. If you jump straight into a sauna right into bed, probably not the best. You got to find that sweet spot. You also have to think about the blue light that you see after the sun goes down, like we talked about. Our bodies and minds are meant to be awake with the sun and then go to sleep when the sun goes down. But today we have all the lights, the computers, the phones that have this blue light. And there's a few ways that you can limit your blue light after the sun has gone down. You could wear blue light blocking glasses if you're going to watch any type of screen. You can also, instead of using fluorescent lighting, invest in a red Himalayan salt lamp. Something red, softish hue, and put it lower. You could even go as hardcore as candle lighting, but you want the lights to be low, not above you, right above you, like where the sun would be. You want this red hue. This helps our brain understand that sleep is approaching soon. And most challenging, but probably most importantly, definitely limit that screen time within the final hours of your day. If you watch something that's scary, you're going to get your hormone levels firing. If you expose yourself to the crazy social media world out there, you're for sure going to find that your sleep suffers. This is where creating a ritual and doing it every night so your brain knows what's coming is so crucial. The more you can standardize your nighttime routine, the better your sleep is going to be. So for me, here's what I do. My nighttime routine is 90 minutes long. So I plan backwards. I know that I want 8 hours of sleep. So I subtract 8 hours from when I know that I have to wake up. That's my bedtime. Then I subtract another hour and a half, 90 minutes from that. And I know that's when I need to start my nighttime routine. No questions. I start by taking a hot shower, and then I get out and I drink a nighttime tea. I actually drink this magnesium product from the company Ned called Mellow, N-E-D, Ned. Amazing company, love it. This product called Mellow is straight up magnesium. It's not CBD or anything like that. A lot of our population is magnesium deficient. So if you are one of us that's magnesium deficient, this Mellow tincture is actually a game changer. So I couldn't recommend it more. While I'm drinking my tea, I turn on my chili pad so that it starts to cool the bed. And then I get all my clothes and my work things ready for the next day. I lay it all out so it's ready to go in the morning. I don't even have to think about it. It's automatic. I do this with all the lights turned down low, and I do this with a podcast in my ear or something that I'm interested in that I can learn from, maybe an audiobook. Nothing that's going to get me all hyped up. And then I finish my nighttime routine by doing 20 to 45 minutes of nighttime yin yoga, Y-I-N, yin yoga. And this is where you hold deep stretches for minutes at a time and focus on breathing and relaxing. Once I finish yin yoga, I do a yoga nidra practice sometimes, and we'll talk about yoga nidra in just a second. After that, I go straight to bed where I put on my favorite app, Brain.fm, which has music that has been scientifically designed to help your brain with high quality sleep. Now, for those of you that struggle with sleep, which is very common, maybe you have a hard time falling asleep because your mind is racing, or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep. How frustrating. There are two things that I have used with myself and my clients that work almost every time. First, interestingly, it starts at the beginning of your day. If you want the best sleep of your life, it starts by getting sunlight in your eyes as soon as possible, setting this circadian rhythm. Within the first hour of waking, go outside. Yes, somehow get outside for even if it's just 1 minute. This is Stanford professor of neurobiology, Professor Andrew Huberman's wheelhouse. Andrew Huberman. He says that it's optimal if you can spend 10 to 30 minutes outside early. If you want the science behind this, you should go to his podcast, which is the Huberman Lab podcast. And he did a series of podcasts on sleep where he talks all about circadian rhythms and getting light on your eyes. I highly recommend following him and his content if you're interested in the human brain and the science behind our behaviors. But get outside and get sunlight in your eyes. No sunglasses. And obviously don't look straight into the sun, but you could maybe take your dog for a walk. I know some people who will brush their teeth on their doorstep. I like to sit and have a cup of coffee on my small, tiny apartment balcony if I have the flexibility in my schedule to do so. But outside is important. It can't be through a window. Every cell in your body has this circadian clock where it operates and communicates with all the other cells to do what they were programmed to do. You have neurons in your eyes that convey to the brain that it is daytime and it's ready to be alert. And once these neurons get this light, it sets off a cascade of events that sets you up for a perfect, energetic day and allows you to want to go to bed when it's the right time of night. If you can stack this morning sunlight on your eyes with some movement, now we're talking. Maybe a walk, maybe an outdoor workout, maybe some yoga on your balcony. You will amplify the positive benefits big time here. Morning movement and morning sunlight will have you ready when it comes nighttime for some of the best sleep of your life. When it comes to your circadian rhythms, most of the experts agree that going to bed and waking up at the same time every day is the best strategy, even on the weekends. Now, this is obviously easier said than done, and I don't do this, but if we want to optimize every aspect of sleep, this is one way to do it. However, if you can only choose one option, to wake up in the morning at the same time or to go to bed at the same time, it's actually more beneficial to wake up the same time every day, to wake up at the same time every day. than it is to go to sleep at the same time every day. For me, I try to wake up between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. every day that I can. Sometimes I coach in the early morning block, so I have to get to the studio and wake up way earlier, but I do the best that I can with what I have. And I even try to wake up at those times on the weekends, with some special occasions as the exception, of course. The next thing that I do on both myself and with clients that struggle with sleep is something that was originally called Yoga Nidra, but now it's being rebranded as non-sleep deep rest, NSDR. Yoga Nidra means yogic sleep, and it's a way of getting you into a state of consciousness between waking and sleeping. Typically, the way you do it is by listening to someone guide you through it. The only issue with this is that you usually have to use a device like a phone or a computer while you listen, so just make sure that the lights on this device somehow are blacked out. But I can guarantee you, with early morning sunlight and maybe a little movement, a nice nighttime routine that has been solidified over a consistent time period so that your brain has that association, with some yin yoga, with a combination of yoga nidra, right before bed, man, you're going to have the best night of sleep in your life. So I'll include some links to some of my favorite yin yoga and yoga nidra videos that we listen to in our household in the description of this episode. Go ahead and check them out. All right, so wow, we've learned a lot over these last 4 episodes. Total wellness, movement, nutrition, stress management, sleep. Now there's one foundational thing that helps to connect them all. You could say that this is the foundation of which these pillars are built in order to hold up the monument that is total wellness. And that foundational factor is community and relationships. Community and relationships. One of the most overlooked aspects of mental, emotional, physical health is the community that you're surrounded by. The relationships you create, nurture, and build are so important. There are 5 blue zones in the world where there are a high concentration of people who live older than 100 years old. 5 zones. There's a list of 9 lifestyle behaviors that the people in all of these blue zones have in common. Of those 9 things, 4 to 5 of them are associated with your community and or your relationships in some way. Here are the 9 things. Number 1, move naturally, movement. Number 2, know your purpose. And purpose usually has to do with your community or your relationships. Number 3, downshift, so stress management. Number 4, 80% rule. Love that one. Moderation, 80% of the time, do things for your health and fitness. That's crazy that that's on a list of things for blue zones. Number 5 is plant slant. And what that means is that most of these zones have a slant towards plant life. So Michael Pollan's rule, where he says, eat whole foods, mostly plants, not too much. That's kind of what this means. Number 6, wine. Actually, wine is on the list of the 9 things that blue zones have in common. And I believe that wine is more of a social and a relationship type of factor than it is the actual content of the wine. Because we know that alcohol is not great for us in high amounts. But what do we do when we sit and enjoy wine with the people that we love? Number 7, right tribe. Right tribe. And that's for sure community. Number 8, belong. They feel like they belong to something. That's social and relationships. That's people. And number 9, loved ones first. They put their loved ones first. And that's for sure relationships, people. Those that have a purpose, a reason for waking up in the morning, are known to live happier and healthier for longer, even if that purpose is herding goats all day. This usually means servicing their community or offering a service or a product that they are passionate about and they feel adds value to the world. This was one of the reasons why I was so excited to talk to the people at Danaco, because being in fashion was never even an option for me growing up. I had no exposure to it. There was no option for me to take that in school, or at least that was presented to me, to even think about making that a career for myself. So I can only imagine what every single person that works at that company had to do in order to make their passion a vision and a reality. I'm guessing every one of them found a love for it. They worked their tails off to get there, and they used their passion to help make that company what it was. It's that type of passion we are looking to find and hold on to and use as fuel to take us into their later years. We all know that person that retires and slowly their health starts to degrade. Now, surprisingly, a moderate amount of alcohol, 1 glass of wine a day for females and 2 glasses a day for males, is acceptable 5 to 7 days a week. And this is mostly said to be with family and friends. Now, this has been shown to increase the quality of life as well as lifespan in these blue zone areas. But I'm betting it's not as much about that actual alcohol as it is about the social aspects of having drinks with family and friends. So be careful with this, as well as it plays a role in stress management as well, right? Research from a famous study, the Framingham study, shows that smoking, obesity, unhappiness, and even loneliness are contagious. What? Smoking, obesity, being unhappy and lonely? That's contagious? That's right. Surrounding yourself with people who have unhealthy habits has been shown to rub off on you. Assessing who you hang out with and then proactively surrounding yourself with the right people will do more to add years to your life than just about anything else. Most of us have heard the famous Jim Rohn quote that says, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Let's take a second right now. Think about your top 5. Who are the top 5 people you are surrounded by in life? Think about their lifestyle behaviors, and then think about their health status. I'd wager a bet that you're fairly on par with the average of those 5 people. Now, the world's longest lived people are either born into or choose to create social circles that support healthy behaviors. We already know that our environment shapes how we feel. If you don't believe me, go into the DMV and hang out there for 5 to 6 hours. You will agree with me at the end. In 2021, all but 5 of 263 centenarians, so 263 centenarians, all but 5 of them interviewed in the original Blue Zone area study belonged to a civic or faith-based organization. So 258 of them belonged to a civic or faith-based organization, adding yet another argument for strong social relationships, adding years to life. And then lastly, happy, healthy centenarians in the Blue Zone areas tend to put their families first. This can take shape in many ways, from keeping your aging parents and grandparents close to you, near to home, to being in a positive, committed relationship. All of this stuff can add up to 6 years of life to your life expectancy. I mean, a lot of us have seen this firsthand. For me, one of my favorite people in the world was my Grandma Lou. She lived to be just over 90 years old. In her late 80s, she looked like she was going to make it another 20 years. She had a purpose. She had a purpose of taking care of my little cousins. They were always running around, and she was running around after them, taking care of them day after day while their mom was at work. They grew up, and then the quarantine happened, and she went downhill very fast. She ended up sitting on the couch most of the day, working on crossword puzzles. She lost purpose. Her body started to decline, and then so did her mind. She couldn't remember people's names. She got so frustrated. I remember visiting her one last time before she passed away, and she just couldn't find the words that she wanted to say. So she would just sit there and just, so frustrated. She passed away shortly after that, and I would bet everything that I own, a huge part of the reason as to why her health declined so fast was due to social isolation and lack of purpose. Maybe you can think of a person in your life, a parent that retired or a grandparent that moved into an assisted living facility. If they lost their purpose and their community along with that, I'd wager to bet that their health was also negatively affected. I hope you haven't experienced this, but it's very common. And this is where I want to start concluding our talk with a challenge to all of you. It's a call to action. Today, it's normal to be sedentary most of the day. Today, it's normal to be on a screen for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Today, it's normal to use technology to make everything less physical. It's normal for instant gratification. Get whatever you want whenever you want it. It's normal to eat highly processed and palatable foods. Almost 70%, 7 out of every 10 adults in the US take one prescription medication or more. 70% take at least one prescription medication, most commonly antibiotics, antidepressants, or opioid killers, painkillers. We are living our lives in a way that seems to be counter to a happy, healthy, fit life. You know what's not normal? Taking the stairs instead of the elevator. 2% of the population takes the stairs instead of the elevator. You know what's not normal? Eating in a way that matches your health and fitness goals most of the time. If you go to an event and you pass on alcohol, you're questioned. If you pull out a prepped meal instead of eating at a company's catered lunch, you're considered a little strange. It's a little weird. I'm not going to lie. I agree. It's normal to express how busy you are, or to be inspired by someone like Elon Musk, who runs multiple super successful billion-dollar companies. How the heck does he do that? He seems to never sleep or take a break. Yet, you may be looked at suspiciously if you were to tell someone that you took time today to work on your stress management and that you went and sat in the park, enjoyed nature, no phone in sight. Weird, right? So my challenge to all of you is to get a little more comfortable being weird. Be weird with me. Everything that we've discussed over these past 4 episodes are tools that can be used to help you be well-rounded in every aspect of your total wellness. These are the big rocks that fill up your jar of total wellness. These are the aspects of your life that if you invest the majority of your time and energy, that will have the biggest impacts and will help all of the other things in your life fall into place. These big rocks, they're known. We all know about this, but they're weird to most people. They're not normal. And I'm not talking just about you. I'm talking about something that's so much bigger and so much more important. I'm also talking about the people in your lives that you care about, that love you, that mean the most to you, that you want on this earth as long as possible with you. Your friends, your family, your loved ones. You can model and live a life based on prioritizing your own total wellness. You can live these large rocks, these tips and strategies to being a happier, healthier, more fit human being. And as people see the impact that it has on your life, they will start to ask you why. They will start to ask you how. What's the best way to do this? This is how you live your own dream life. I challenge you to be the weird health conscious person in your circle. If we're just looking at the statistics, the people in your life that have you on their top 5, the stats show that if they had a weird health and wellness person in their circle, you could literally save their lives. You could literally add high quality years to their lives. How powerful is that? You'd be creating a community of happy, healthy people, which ripples further and more powerfully than you could ever imagine. Be the person who lives to fulfill these pillars in your own life. Show people just how incredible the transition can be. When they see you making changes and the positive results that those changes bring for you, they will be given an example of what is possible. They will start asking you what you've done, how you've done it, and it will expand and ripple from there. Be weird with me, friends. Instead of sitting on a Zoom call, let's have walking meetings. Instead of bringing donuts and cupcakes and brownies to the break room, let's find delicious, health-boosting foods that we can share with our team. Instead of celebrating how much a person has worked overtime, check in on your people and ask if they've done anything to refill their own cup lately, if they have a sense of purpose for what they're doing. Be the weird one who, instead of sitting on a couch after a long day of sitting in this chair for the same position, getting down on the floor and stretching while you're decompressing from work. We lose sight of just how important health is. We don't value our health until we've lost it. If you are someone that you know has ever had a time period where they've gotten sick or injured or lost their health, maybe you've lost your independence or the ability to take care of yourself for a certain time period. You know how just how badly you wish you had your health. Don't take it for granted, friends. Just because you're not currently experiencing anything doesn't mean it's not important. One of my favorite quotes on this goes, "The best time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Don't wait until it's raining." If we wait until it's raining, we're going to really regret it. Being healthy is hard. Making decisions now when you don't necessarily have to is hard. But it's either hard now and easy later, or it's easy now and hard later. You get to choose your hard. As I've navigated my own health and fitness journey, I've found it helpful to have a list of rules that have helped guide me. Over time, I've worked on these rules. I've made them shorter, more powerful, and more impactful for me. And as we've discussed each pillar, we've touched on these rules for life that I use to guide me every single day. I have a personal list of 10 rules, but these right here that I'm about to share are my top 3 if I was going to rank them. Rules for life. Number 1, do what works for me. Rule number 1, do what works for me. This has so many effects in my life, mostly when it comes to nutrition. There could be studies, there could be thousands of studies saying that this food is the best food in the world for you. But if it doesn't work for me, then it doesn't work. Do what works for you. Studies are these weird things. If you think about what a study is, and I use studies all the time to reinforce my point, but think about what studies are. They bring a bunch of people in and they control the environment as much as they can, except for the couple of variables that they're trying to impact. And then they extrapolate that into everyday life where it's so crazy and hectic. I don't know. It's just hard. Do what works for you. If a study says one thing, but it just doesn't fit for you, then maybe it's not for you. Number 2, if I don't use it, I will lose it. From physical to cognitive to your relationship skills, if you don't use it, you will lose it. Think about where you want to be when you're at your last year of life. Think about all the things that you want to be able to do physically, mentally, socially. Think about it. Where do you want to be? If you can't do those things now, you will definitely not be able to do them later. It won't be close. If you don't use it, lose it. What you practice, what you strengthen gets reinforced, and you will keep that. And number 3 is do the hard thing. Everything that I want is on the other side of hard. Do the hard thing. These rules for life will find themselves embedded into all of our pillars in many ways. They are all connected. You might find in your life that 1 or 2 of your pillars are super strong and solid, while 1 or 2 might need a bit more focus. And I bet you already know which of these pillars that you put focus in, and on the other side, which of these pillars that you may struggle with. See if you can apply 1, 2, or all 3 of these rules, along with the techniques, tips, and tools that we discussed over these past 4 episodes in order to boost your lagging pillars. Changing behavior is super challenging. All of the information that we just presented is all great information, but changing behavior, humans just don't like change. But it's like I tell the people that I work with when it first comes to their total wellness journey or their fat loss journey or their health journey. I tell them, people always overestimate how hard it's going to be, but they underestimate how long it's going to take. People always overestimate how hard it's going to be. It's not going to be that hard. It's pretty basic if you just take the time to get consistent, but they underestimate how long it's going to take. They're impatient. They think it should be now. They think if they put in all this hard work over the next 31 days, that they should see something now. But what's happened over the last 30 years of your life? Here's the advice that I live my life by. Whatever changes that you're trying to make, start slow and start small. Make it almost impossible not to do. Start by tracking what you're currently doing. All of the things. Start by tracking your movement, tracking your nutrition, tracking your stress, your emotions. Start by tracking. What are your lagging pillars? Track it. What are you currently doing and what are the results getting you with what you're doing? Then make a small change. Make one small change. anything that we talked about, and make that change stick. And once it's stuck, then continue to add another small thing after small thing. Surround yourself with people who are on a similar journey with similar goals as you. And then fail a lot, fail by trial and error, and then learn from those failures. That is part of the process. That's part of the journey. For results that are sustainable, long-term, if you want long-term sustainable results, then you want long-term consistency over short-term intensity. Long-term consistency over short-term intensity, and that will win every single time. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your life today and every time that you listen to this podcast. Thank you for letting me share my passion, and thank you for your invested time in being a lifelong learner. If at any time in your life you have questions on any of this, I'm always one social media message away or one email away. I would love to help you find the answer. I would love to answer any questions that any of you guys have anytime. And if I don't know the answer, I will research it. I'll find it, and we can figure it out together. Huge shout out to the fashion team over at Dana Co. and all the companies that make up their organization. And then one final recommendation before we end. There's a book that I talk about all the time. It's by the person who is the reason for this very podcast existing. The book is Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson and Eat Smarter by Sean Stevenson. Before Sleep Smarter, most of the books on sleep were educational textbooks, written in a not so accessible way for the average person. But Sleep Smarter is packed full of extremely important information that you can use to arm yourself to get a higher quality, better night's sleep. He makes it easy to understand, fun to read, and gives you extremely detailed strategies that can help you set up your sleep sanctuary, create a sleep routine, and counteract some of the things that we do throughout our day that make it so that our sleep suffers. And then he even offers ways to supplement your diet for better sleep. You have to read Sleep Smarter, as well as Eat Smarter, which is his version of Sleep Smarter for nutrition. And make sure to follow his podcast, The Model Health Show. This is where I got the idea to start the Livin the Dream podcast in the first place. Sean actually messaged me after I asked him on any advice for starting a podcast. He messaged me back, and he gave me a list of things that really made this podcast what it is today. We owe a lot to Sean. I owe a lot to Sean, even though I've never met him face to face. So check out his stuff. He's doing it the right way, and he has the right intentions. And that's it, my friends, for this week's episode. Each week, we're going to focus on sharing information that will help you with your health, fitness, and wellness journey. Share the knowledge that you gained today with your friends and family, and hold each other accountable. If you enjoyed this content, it does help a ton if you could post on your social media stories a screenshot of this episode, and then maybe include one takeaway, one thing that you learned. And make sure you tag me and share your journey. Tag me at livinthedream_podcast or at CoachDamian_SD. And let us know how this episode benefited you. Let's get more people on this lifelong learner train and join the Livin the Dream team. Message us if you have any suggestions or tips that will help your Livin the Dream team that we can discuss on future episodes. I will be right here with you, working on making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.